The one screen is 10 minutes off, which makes it hard. Okay, we're going to get to order as soon as I get quorum back.
I'm going to wait till Jeff gets his coffee then. Just standing in solidarity with my fellow councillor.
All right. Mr. Westerson, are we good for online and everything? Is everything in place? Okay. We will just give Mr. Carlson, Councillor Carlson, time to grab his coffee, and then we will get going, being respectful of people's time. I do not want to hold this up. Mr. Lowen, just so I am sure, I don't see Mr. Faust in the room. Are you speaking to number one if there's any questions? Sure. Okay. Okay. I don't know if there will be any questions with the submissions, but I just want to be sure I know who to turn to. Okay. So let us call to order. We will get going. I will start with a roll call, Mr. Westerson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Present.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
Councillor Carlson.
Hola.
Councillor Croson.
Present.
And Councillor Parker has joined us. We have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. Moving on now to the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion here from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the September 10th, 2025 agenda of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting be adopted as presented. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are there any error or changes, additions?
Mr. Westerson, I was going to number it with number one policy first, but he chose not to. I assume everybody's okay jumping around numeric. No, just kidding. There's no changes.
Excellent. Then I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Oh.
I'm not a voting member, so
So that's 4.5 votes.
right.
Meeting canceled.
The agenda has been adopted as presented. Moving now to the consent agenda. I have a motion from Councillor Middleton Hope. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee, 1, approve the minutes of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting held on July 24, 2025, and authorize the Chair and City Clerk Designate to sign the same. And 2, receive for information the status of directed resolutions for September 10, 2025. Councillor Middleton Hope, the motion is yours.
Thank you. Unless there's any changes to it, call a question.
Question's been called. All in favor? All right. We also have approved the consent agenda. So what we have today is 6 submissions, no presentations unless somebody wants more information on any one of them. And we start with Mr. Faust, Deputy City Solicitor, Bylaw 6454, Amendment to Bylaw 6125, Council Code of Conduct. In a nutshell, because of changes made at the province, our Code of Conduct is moot and will be repealed. As will amendments to the City Council Code of Conduct. So we have the Code of the Bylaw and the amendments. It also affects any of our committees, so the Code of Conduct there will be gone as well, and the term limitations and stipends for council members of boards, commissions, and committees. This is the recommendation bringing forward. This is the motion that we have on the table to begin. And this, of course, as I said, is happening because the province has passed a law that this is the way we're going, and they have promised that by the spring, they will have created a code of conduct that will be in place. I did speak to Mr. Westerson if this means we can go wild, and of course it doesn't, not that we would, but Robert's rules would still be in place, as would all other parliamentary procedure. This is just removing these bylaws. So, starting, of course, with the Standing Policy Committee, we will open it up to the public. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this issue? Okay. See nobody from the public wanting to speak. We will now move to questions from the committee. I have first in the queue, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to, I don't see Adam here, so probably
Mr. Lowen has said that
Brian?
he would answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. The province has cancelled all municipalities' ability to set out rules of engagement or proper behaviors for members of council. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other, because I do understand that the province is hopefully going to bring in something overarching for all municipalities. That would be awesome. But it's not there yet, so we're sort of in an in-between period. Are there any rules in our code of conduct that aren't covered in other legislation, typically the MGA? I'm thinking gifts and benefits. Like right now, we're required through our code of conduct to claim any gift or benefit over $250. So if somebody takes me on a golf vacation for $1,000, I need to claim that, or at least say it. Is that now all out the window?
The city's code of conduct bylaw was repealed by the province in Bill 50. We no longer have a code of conduct bylaw, sir.
But there is there anything in legislation anywhere that sort of governs what is appropriate or inappropriate for members of council?
There's criminal code provisions relating to improper influence and bribery.
Yeah. But a popularity vote doesn't always get the most ethical. Anyways, so this is basically we're in abeyance until the province decides to bring something else in.
Until there's a provincial model code of conduct, those kinds of rules we don't have a bylaw that covers them.
Well, have fun, all of you.
Well, as Councillor Middleton Hope said, you do have to rely on your own conscience, your own ethics, your own value system when there aren't any rules like this. And yeah, and the nice thing is we know nobody's going to take me golfing, so we should be okay because I will not be going. All right. Any other questions from any members of the committee? Okay, we'll move then to the motion. Motion is from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council remove the following items from the status of directed resolutions. 1, Code of Conduct Bylaw. 2, term limitations and stipends for council members on boards, commissions, and committees. And 3, Bylaw 6454, amendments to Council Code of Conduct Bylaw 16125. And further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. Now, you're going to see that in every one of our motions. Normally, we would be far enough in advance that our motions could make it to the Agenda Review Committee, but we are not because we're trying to wrap everything up. And so every one of the motions will be going forward as an item of urgent business. Agenda Review is aware of this. The next meeting is aware of this. But that has to be in there because we are breaking our own procedures that we would normally do. So we'll just kind of make sure everybody understands why that is there. It is unusual, but not unheard of. Councillor Carlson, your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rather than get on a soapbox, we know that the province creates these rules and we must abide by them, so I will call for the vote.
Before we call the question, I do want to thank staff because I know the amount of time you spent on these items, doing revisions, having conversations, looking at creating codes of conducts that were the best possible mechanisms. Only with a sweep of the pen, they're all gone. But it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate the work that went into them. And so with that, I will call the question. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the second submission on. Next submission is a new policy, CAO hiring policy. There is no recommended motion at this time, so as we have the conversation around it, we will have to look at drafting a motion. There is a recommendation from admin, but it has not been drafted. This one has been sitting around at least for 4 or 5 years now, because it comes from Councillor Kaufman from the last term of council, not the present term of council. And as many of you know, we, between interim CAOs and CAOs, we went through 6 in a very short time. And so the purpose here was to take the wisdom learned from going through that much quicker than anybody wished to, and creating a document that would then help council in the future if that was something they came up to. Not to limit them, not to say you don't have options, but to make sure that they were given the benefit of knowledge and how to move forward. And so it was sent to administration to please look into. They looked into what policies already exist under MGA, under our own procedure bylaw, et cetera. And the recommendation is to bring something forward that there is a gap and to suggest putting that into the procedure bylaw. That is recommended. That's where we will start the conversation. Moving first, though, to the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on a new policy regarding a chief administrative officer, or as we would call them, the city manager hiring policy? Right. I don't see any questions from the public. We will move then to questions from committee. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate this being in front of us because it does provide a template for future councils to look at. I think, as you said, it doesn't tie their hands. Council may change or go a different route, but this kind of gives a sort of a step-by-step process of how it could be accomplished and how those of us who went through 6 felt it could best be achieved. One of the questions I had, and I'm not sure who can speak to this, because we didn't contemplate it when Councillor Kaufman was putting together his notes, we were focused mostly on the CAO permanent position. Is there anywhere else that sort of gives any guidance on the interim? Because we must have a CAO at all times. And if you follow this process, it could be a 6-month, could be a year. Is there any process or guidance anywhere about the interim position?
Now, Mr. Matthews, you are the one listed with this. Do you have the answer, or would you like us to ask, Ms. Hilford or someone else?
So, yes, thank you, and I might ask for a lifeline here in a second. So in this regard here, I think under the procedure bylaw, there's some components in here, but I'm not aware of anything on the interim, and so I'm not quite sure if my peers would know anything on that component. I'm looking to my peers.
I see Mr. Lowen wishing to get into the queue, so we'll jump to Mr. Lowen.
To fulfill the office of the CAO, the council could appoint an interim CAO by resolution the same way they would hire a permanent. They would just identify them as an interim. But I'm not aware of anything more detailed than that in terms of a procedure or process.
Okay. Councillor Carlson? So it can simply be done by resolution. It could be done same day that is needed, and it would be completely up to the council at that time to decide how to choose in whatever way they want. Is that sufficient, or would you like to see it more?
I think maybe I just wanted to highlight it. I think what's in front of us is a good template for the councils to follow on the process for the CAO, but perhaps at a future governance meeting, it could be discussed about also the interim CAO while that process is unfolding. So just maybe a note for the future. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I hear there's other organizations that do have a policy that sort of covers the
How to do interim and, yeah.
So.
Because sometimes the interim is interim for longer than anyone expects. Even that. Yeah. Councillor Middleton Hope, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, which also speaks to duration of the interim as well. So I think that's something that I agree, it's something that we need to discuss. This is a matter of process, so I'll direct my question through the city manager to our CFO, because he seems to be the man of the hour. Mr. Matthews, just a question in regards to the research that we conducted regarding evaluating our processes vis-a-vis other communities. I note that there seems to be inconsistency in regards to the cities and the size of the cities that we've contacted to try and determine how our hiring policy stacks up. So we've got Ottawa with 1.1 million, Coamlox at 15,000 people, Rocky View County at 41,000, and Medicine Hat. So I'm wondering why there isn't a consistent benchmarking. I'm very familiar with that process across the country. It's something that I think that we've done in the past where we've identified perhaps 10 municipalities of similar sizes. I wonder why we've gone away from that and why we're using something that seems to be quite disparate in terms of its population size. Therefore, there may be challenges in terms of applying some of the knowledge that we learn from them.
Thank you, Councillor Middleton Hope, and you're absolutely correct in here on the different sizing. Typically, we try to look for normally within our peer group within Alberta first, and then also in relative size to our our city in across British Columbia or other provinces across Canada, I should say. In this regard, I think the basic thing on this is we were trying to find information where there was anything on COO hiring policies, and it was actually difficult to find this. You know, I'm just checking with my staff to see if I'm getting a good nod. Yeah, I'm getting a good nod. So when we start looking across, there's not many places that actually have this defined out. There is provinces that have some of it inside of literature, and as you can see, we attached some of that information inside of this submission. Just that there wasn't much there for us to really readily find.
Good. Thank you very much.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, question, or floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And it's perhaps not so much a question, so much as just a statement. We've got a draft for discussion, recruitment policy sitting here in front of us. Lethbridge Police Commission has a policy for hiring the chief, which also has some interim policy in there that we could look at the language for as well. Understanding that there are gaps in what we currently have, I think that, and for discussion with the group, I do think that separating this out to do a separate policy from the procedure bylaw, knowing that the procedure bylaw also needs some work, would probably be a better way to go. So separating it out with the policy, taking a look at what our commission has insofar as interim goes, filling those gaps. We don't necessarily need to do everything the province says in their guiding document. That guiding document is over 10 years old, but it can be included in the policy or part of as what we're working on the policy. But just some things to think about is that we do have a local organization that has some of this there that we can pull from as well. So just some comments on that and something for us to think about.
Well, and I think some members of council helped to draft theirs, so it might have been why we have one there. So might be a reason for it to exist. So, Mr. Westerson, procedure question. If we do choose to say this is what we want to consider and we send it back to admin, this would not actually have to go to council, right? This could be referred directly back to admin by this body?
That's correct, yes, you could.
Okay, so that is one option. We can send it on to council if there's something that we would like council's consideration of. We can go for the status quo, which is one of the options, not a recommended option, but it is an option. And the options are create a policy, only worry about what's under the procedure bylaw, do a combination of policy and procedure bylaw. So those are sort of just in a nutshell, because this is a submission. I just want to nutshell it. That's where we're at.
I think you've summarized it well.
Okay, so now that is on the table. As I said, there is no formal motion. This is your motion, Councillor Middleton Hope. So if you have an idea of which way you'd like to go, that can start the conversation. I think I'm sensing that we're all sort of on the same page, but please go ahead, Councillor Middleton Hope.
Well, I think that's the place to start, Madam Chair, is are we on the same page? I'm certainly in favor of simply sending it back to administration, but I don't know what my colleagues are.
Sending it back to do we want a formal policy? That would be one question, or can we see the changes just in the procedure? Which way are we leaning on that?
Well, codifying it through creating a policy makes sense. It's not the only way to go, correct, Mr. Westerson? But I would be more in favor of codifying it.
Okay, so codifying policy, I believe that's what you said as well, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
Yeah, I would be in favor of this having its own policy.
Okay, Councillor Carlson, where are you landing? Are you right on the fence? Because, you know.
I'm very fence-ish.
You're fence-ish today?
Yeah, so you guys
Okay.
decide.
All right. And then we do have return to governance Q4 2026. That would be approximately a year and a bit from now. Is that doable, Mr. Matthews, that if we want a policy and the procedure bylaw changes that go in hand, a year works? And I should probably ask, Mr. Brierley, do we have a year? No, just kidding.
I was waiting for that question, yeah. I'm not planning on going anywhere, so I just thought I'd throw
I
that
have
out
to
there.
ask. It would be silly not to rush it if you're changing your mind.
Awkward. Yeah. Yes, that would work for the year piece there. I mean, obviously we'll have to look at the schedules of if it's a bylaw that is a little bit different in some of the work we'll do, but we definitely could come back.
So we are thinking council policy. Mr. Lowen, is that the appropriate tool, or would this be a bylaw and we're just sending it down the wrong, channel?
Based on the discussion I've heard, I think a policy is likely sufficient, but again, depending on the specifics of what content might be proposed, it could be that some bylaw amendment might be recommended at that time.
Okay. So, Mr. Westerson, the motion I am hearing being drafted is to recommend that, review the options for a policy and direct admin to do changes to that, or to create that draft, as well as the recommended changes to the procedure bylaw, and bring both back in about a year.
That's what I was hearing, and I'm just conferring with Ms. Kling. We're going to need a few moments to quickly type that, but
That's what I assumed. So we will go into a 5-10-minute recess for you to draft that.
that'd be perfect. Thank you.
All right. So I am going to put us into recess till 2 o'clock to give the time to actually draft that, and we'll bring it up for everybody to judge at that time. Thank you all. going. Are we back online? Okay, and we have our core. The motion that was drafted by and Councillor Middleton Home. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council directs administration to 1, prepare a Chief Administrative Officer hiring policy as an attachment 5, including information regarding an interim Chief Administrative Officer, and 2, prepare amendments to Bylaw 6250, Procedure Bylaw as proposed in the attached report regarding the mandate of the Governance Standing Policy Committee, and 3, return to a Governance Standing Policy Committee in Q4. I would like to just say, before Q4. If you guys get it done faster, nobody's going to stop you from bringing it back. So like that by Q4. So that's the latest. And further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. Again, thank you very much for drafting that. Councillor Middleton Hope, it is your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have one question, I guess comment for Mr. Matthews in regards to inclusion within any drafted policy. Can we ensure that we include a duration, as in a sunset clause on this? We can't have somebody up acting as the city manager in an interim position ad nauseum. We've done this in other positions, not just this organization, but others, and it's untenable. Having somebody in an acting position for a lengthy period of time. Also, as a part of that, would we also include the terms of engagement and/or compensation for an interim manager as a part of the administrative process? Or is that simply
that is usually negotiated between the council and the interim.
Yeah, so I would agree with Councillor Crowson in that regard on the compensation, but when it comes to duration and so forth, yeah, we could put some wording inside of there on term and so forth. Here again, we'll bring it back for Governance SPC to be able to take a look at and see if that fits the needs from council.
good? Just so we're sure that some of those conditions will be met within that. So, Madam Chair, if there's any debate on this issue?
Well, since we created it by consensus, if there's debate now, there's something wrong with most of us. So I am.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Well, you always know that the Councillor Carlson at the other end can always be called upon.
I am seeing no debate.
Good.
I'm going to assume that you have called the
Call a
question.
question then.
Question's been called. All in favor? All right. And again, you can't vote. It's just getting exercise in. All right, that passes unanimously. Moving on to the next agenda item. Next item is Mr. David Sarsfield, Deputy City Clerk. Oh, sorry, no, I'm just 6.3. Ms. Natalia Madden, Senior Manager, Digital Transformation Policy CC11, Technology for Council Members. And I thank you so much for your good humor in helping us get through this over the last few months. I have had nobody on council tell me they don't like this, so yay. I think you have found that magical balance between the PC users and the Mac users and the people who want different options, etc. And that is what we have here now. Administration listened to all the different needs of the 9 of us, presuming how people will continue to use things. So we do have funds built in, so if you want to get technology bought, that is not normally part of it. You have IT support, outlines what IT will do, what City Clerk's Department will do, and the responsibilities of the members of council, which note one of the major responsibilities of the members of council is to make sure that whatever you're using, you will use the highest security and you will not compromise any of the security of the city. So you'll ensure that whether it's your own device or not, it is appropriately maintained and appropriately used, etc. So what we have before us is a motion, and I'll just read it before we start. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council approve the amended policy CC11, Technology for Council Members, as provided in Attachment 1, and further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. So we will once again see if there's any members of the community who have questions about this. No, Mr. Cool, you don't have any questions? Okay. And then we'll move to questions of the committee, starting with Councillor Middleton Hope.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions to Ms. Madden. Thank you very much for providing us with this information. The data plan identifies a cost of about $25. This may not be realistic considering contemporary data plans, so I'm wondering if we could massage the language in there to address not only what might cost us in terms of data plans today, but in the future. So I'm wondering if we can make an adjustment to that.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Middleton Hope. And I'm going to let our Chief Finance Officer reply to that one.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Yes, I think you could do that inside of there. We could try to figure out some wording in between now and the council meeting that would talk about how the rates increase. Now, if I remember right, that $25 based on our current plan and what it is for our corporate side, if I remember right, or what we think is reasonable on that. So we can try to put in some wording. I'm just trying to struggle on right off the bat here what that would look like, but we'll come back in between now and council if that's the will.
I just don't want to tie us to a specific rate that is untenable. Second question might be through Mr. Brierly to Mr. Lowen. My concern in regards to the utilization of personal devices stems from the disclosure of the contents of those devices where the access to information application may occur. So those that have chosen to use their own devices with payment to be used for city purposes, Mr. Lowen, here's the question. Do they open themselves up to the potential of disclosing not only the contents that they use the device for city purposes, but also the contents that they may use for personal purposes?
Yes, that risk exists.
Okay. So I think then from a city perspective, if there are members of council that are going to be using devices that are their own personal property, then there should be a disclosure form that they are required to fill out in advance that absolves the city of any responsibility in regards to their own personal use on those devices. Separate the two. Create as much separation between their activities as a council member and their activities as a personal member of the community.
Mr. Lowen, would not the same arise, though, if you used a council computer and then did personal stuff on it?
Yes, whichever device that you're using for city business runs the risk of required to be searched for whatever reason and disclosure of relevant documents on board.
It's sort of why we had that stuff in the Code of Conduct bylaw that no longer exists. Sorry. So which risk is more, and is there a way to limit that risk for the city?
The way to limit that risk would be to not allow personal use of corporate technology and to tell people that they should have two sets of devices and keep their personal life and their professional life separate. That's the only realistic answer.
Right, which some members of council have already informed us they don't wish to go for. All right, Councillor Middleton Hope, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Is there more of the question there?
Yeah, no, it's so, in light of your secondary question or comment to Mr. Lowen, if there is a way to provide for a document that members of council who choose to use both would then protect both the city as well as them. Because I'm not sure that every member of council is well aware that the fact that they're using their personal devices for corporate responsibilities, that it opens up both sides to examination under the access to information. And I think if they can be protected from that, that might be a course of action.
So that would go either to you, Mr. Matthews, or Mr. Lowen. Is that something, do such documents exist that you have seen from other organizations that we could adapt? And if so, could something like that be ready for the new council to look at? Because, yeah, might be part of the orientation to technology going, here's the risks, and they would still have to make that personal choice themselves. Mm-hmm.
So I'll start, and I'll see if Mr. Lowen agrees or if he wants to tweak my response there. So based on the, what Mr. Lowen just mentioned in regards to that, I think if council passes this policy in the sense that you're allowed to use personal information on it, it's it's actually agreeing that that's an okay procedure and taking on that risk. The flip side of that is it could be some documentation or a sign off for members of council so they're aware of the risks of that their personal information may be subject to disclosure along the way, and so that when hopefully when or if that ever occurs, that there is that they were apprised to it prior to doing that, and that would naturally, individuals would make the decision whether they want to have two phones, one for personal, one for business usage. I'm not sure if Mr. Lowen has seen anything else, or if he wants to. Okay.
Any other question, Councillor Middleton Hope?
Make the observation that we do seem to be in a period of time with greater scrutiny placed on these kinds of things than or the trend seems to be increasing. So.
Yeah, and I have no problem sharing with them my historical knowledge on my computer. All right, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And to follow up on Councillor Middleton Hope's question with regards to the voice and data plan costing being accurate in the $25 amount, currently every charge I've received has been in the $50 amount. That is the regular billing for that. So that's why I was also going to comment that $25 might not be realistic as well, since right now the city data plan is $50, in and around $50 a month.
I don't know if Ms. Madsen, if you have anything to any further information on the amount of the dollar plan and why the 25 was chosen in the way.
Yes, of course. Thanks for the question. One thing that I would like to also explain is the $25 is for voice and data plan for the bring your own device.
Okay.
And as far as I understand, this is not to pay for your full amount of what you receive every month for your personal device, but is to pay for the portion that you utilize for city services. So that's the intent of the 25. And yes, for the corporate services devices, we actually are part of a pooling minutes. So in an average, we spend in between $35, $45 a month per device, per employee for corporate devices. I hope that answers your question.
That does answer it. So if instead of doing our own device, we decide to go with the corporate device as far as the cell plan goes, we would still maintain what the current payout is, but that payout then would come off of the $4,000 amount that is being allotted under this.
That is correct. If you decide to get a corporate device, and this is your cell phone, then according to the allowance, the smartphone 500 will be deducted from your allowance. And then the city will pay the monthly data and voice plan for you every month. If you select the BYOD, then the monthly allowance is separate from the allowance.
Right, so certainly then that's where that reduced amount might be coming in. So taking a look at that then, when I look at those total amounts of $4,000, can that funding be mixed and matched? So in the attachment, we're looking at spending $2,100 on a laptop, but perhaps you don't spend $2,100 on a laptop. You spend less than that or more than that. Is it a $4,000 amount, or can you only spend $2,100 on a laptop? I think it's $1,000 on a tablet, that sort of thing. Are you limited to those specific amounts as they're outlined in the attachment, or can there be some mixing and matching so that the $4,000 is overarching?
Thanks for the question. It's a really good question. And say, for example, a laptop. You decide to purchase a laptop, but the laptop that you would like to purchase is $3,500, right? So then you will only have $500 into the allowance for the rest of technology that you may need. to do council business. So that's how it works. No, we're not limiting you to spend only $2,100 on a laptop. The $2,100 is only an estimate
Okay.
on the amount of what you're going to spend on these items. And it is up to you to utilize the allowance
Okay.
as best as you can.
Okay, so these then, the items and the amounts that are outlined in the attachment are not set in stone. Like you can mix and match that so that the technology allowance is $4,000 and you can mix and match that sort of thing.
That is correct.
Okay.
The items is just an estimate based on the estimate cost of the eligible technology.
Okay. And then along with that, I would also suggest that taking a look at the smartphone purchase at $500 might need to be looked at again, or might need to be looked at as well with the $25 monthly for the data fee. My cell phone just came up for renewal and there was nothing under $500 that I could get. So I think that needs to be taken a look at as well. Unless, can we use the city's purchasing when we pick out the device that we want in order to get lower pricing, or would we get lower pricing if we went with the city's purchasing?
Thanks for the question. I believe this question was on the last meeting and our procurement staff member was here. So if the corporate devices, right? If we purchase a phone for you today, it will cost around $500, right? Being an iPhone, a Samsung. For the bring your own device, if I was gonna replace my phone, it would likely cost me about $1,500, $1,700. But remember, always they bring your own device, because I pay for my phone $1,700, $1,800. It's only a portion of the phone that I'm gonna utilize for city business. And that's why I don't get reimbursed the whole amount for my phone. So saying that the corporate devices are for staff that are gonna use corporate devices. So the city cannot purchase a phone for me personally.
Okay.
And I repay it to the city.
Okay. Okay, so if we are purchasing through the city, we are purchasing, or if we have the city purchase, we are having you purchase corporate devices and having you pay on that.
Exactly, and that is according to our procurement procedures, yes.
Okay, all right. I'll step out for now as I see Councillor Middleton Hopes has some further questions.
Well, and before he does, Councillor Carlson's actually next in the queue.
I really appreciate the policy. I think it answers a lot of the requests of members of council that probably aren't here right now, but like to use their own technology. So I like that it gives them options going forward. I had very similar questions as John and Jen did, Councillor Middleton Hope and Councillor Schmidt-Rempel did around the costing and the pricing, but now I kind of get it that we get deals on things. So I just have one question under responsibilities A7, provide amortized pricing for technology buyout options at the end of term. Can someone explain that to me? I'm going through it right now. And if we bought my iPhone for $500 4 years ago, and and it's cracked and broken, and I'm being told that to buy it out is going to cost me $500, that doesn't seem like amortized. So I'm just wondering how they figure that out. If we bought it for $500, I didn't think it was still going to cost me $500. I'm not buying it out. I'll go pick up my own. So I'm just wondering how that amortization has come to. Is it based on what Councillor Schmidt-Rempel would pay, $1,700, or is it based on the $500 that it cost us?
Thanks for the question. Mr. Matthews, please.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you.
Get the abacus.
So, great question there, Councillor Carlson, in regards to this. So, no, it's not the $500, the original, currently what is our, as Ms. Matt said, in regards to our procurement amount that we buy a brand new internally. It would be the amount, it would be the historical amount on that, potentially, that we could look at. One way of doing it is looking at it and seeing after 5 years, is there really any value? If it's after 1 year, well, usually be after 4, always. In that regard, what would be left after 4 years if that phone was there? The other way of looking at it too, there is places like Apple where you can actually put in the model onto the online and you can actually find out what the value of that phone is. And I think that would probably likely, I mean, that's one example. It doesn't mean that you don't have an Android or something else, but that'd be one example of a way we could look for it. It's not arbitrary. It's based on what the market would bear for that, if you were trading that in directly with Apple, for example.
Okay, thank you for that, because my second question was I'm trying to wrap my brain around buying your own technology or just using city supplied. And this is where it got interesting for me. So say Councillor A buys a $2,000 smartphone. They're reimbursed $500 from the technology budget. And at the end of term, it's amortized and they have to buy out even though they've already paid $1,200. Like I couldn't find that in the policy of how, like if John bought a $2,000 phone and got credited $500, at the end of term they say, and you owe us another $1,000 for that phone that you bought. That's what I couldn't figure out.
So I'll start off here, and if I need help, I'll reach out to Ms. Madden as well here on this one. But so a couple things on it. So I think what you're referring to is on the bring your own device. So if all of a sudden you go and an individual counselor goes and buys a $2,000 phone, they would take that out of their $4,000 allotment. That would leave $2,000 for a laptop or whatever else for the technology. That would just mean that at the end of the term, you own that phone. The only thing you have to do with ourselves is that you have to make sure that we scrub it and so forth. I don't believe inside there you would have any costs coming back to us because you purchased the phone. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Am I reading that wrong?
I mean, I guess it's just all just because we're doing two different streams at the same time. So then if I bought my city technology phone with my budget, why don't I just walk out the door with it?
Sorry, I'm probably getting this wrong because the city did pay you out for the $2,000. So you will have to buy it off because the city actually, I'm just not thinking this straight here on the policy.
That's all right.
You will have to pay that out because the city actually bought it, regardless whether it was corporate technology or personal technology, we reimbursed you as an individual. Yeah. And so at the end of the policy would be the same thing, that $2,000 phone we put into the Apple and whatever the net value of it, if you're going to buy it, you have to do that. Sorry, I was thinking this totally wrong on the amount that you didn't get paid back by the city. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe I got that right. Yeah, very perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Councillor Middleton Hope, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the question, Ms. Madden, perhaps Mr. Brierley or Mr. Matthews may want to comment on it as well, but can we assume that support and software cost will be absorbed by the city for the use of these devices? It doesn't say that, but can we presume that?
Thanks for the question. May I ask you to rephrase that question?
Sure.
What type of
So
software?
when you buy a piece of hardware, whether it's a telephone or you buy a laptop or whatever, you have programming that you want to put on it, right? Whether it's Microsoft or whatever, and somebody has to support that. Whether it's supporting a virus program or whether it's supporting the use of that particular device, our IT section will continue to cover those costs, not coming out of our budgets, but they will continue to cover those costs for us. Is that correct?
Yes, but I'm going to explain the yes.
Okay.
If you purchase a laptop, of course, the city will provide the software necessary for you to do council business. For example, Microsoft. right? A Microsoft Office, Excel, Word,
Right.
email. And any other, and we will install any other application. If you use our electronics system for your timesheet, any other system that you use, then we'll install it and maintain it and pay for.
Okay?
And then at the end of the term, all those programs will be removed from your personal computer.
They need to be listening to this. They, well, I think this is a piece that might interest you in regards to, having to, everything is removed when you take your phone or your laptop. Okay, you knew that, go back to talking. Okay, thank you.
And may I?
Yep.
One more thing too that is important, if it's a corporate device and you decide to purchase this device, the corporate devices usually comes with an operating system, laptops, Windows. And the city purchased this operating system separately. So when we give you, you decide to purchase your laptop, we'll give you your laptop to purchase, it will be empty.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
It will be
Empty.
just a laptop.
Yep.
So those are things to consider when you are purchasing the equipment back from the city.
Right. Last question is in regards to this mini budget that we're provided for technology. Is this a use it or lose it budget, Mr. Matthews?
Yes, it is. So basically what it means by that, over the 4-year term, that counselor will have $4,000 worth of technology they can spend. But if they, if that counselor only spends $2,000 over the course of 4 years, then the remaining $2,000 is just a surplus amount that goes back to the MRSR like all the other surpluses.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, you may go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matthews, I just want to go back to the buyout amounts because that's what Councillor Carlson and I were just here sidebarring about. So when he wants to buy out his phone, he buys it out for the $500 purchase price, not the depreciated price that shows up on the Apple website, because the phone is no longer worth $500.
Yeah, so no, it would be the reduced price. So it wouldn't be the $500 original cost. It would be whatever that phone is worth as of today.
Okay, so whatever Apple is showing as could be a possible trade-in
Now,
cost.
I guess there could be a weird circumstance, if
Sure.
8 years later that you have, say 4 years later, technology doesn't last long, but say 4 years later that you have a phone that the corporation bought for $500 or they bought for $500, and it's somewhat appreciated more than what it would have been inside of it. That I don't know. That all comes down to what the value would be at the time to buy out that phone.
Okay, so he's buying out at a depreciated cost then,
That's correct.
not at the original $500 purchase.
That's right. I mean,
It could be vintage.
could be vintage,
And
yes.
it might have appreciated in that case.
And I know that some members
I
of
was
council.
misunderstanding that and just, was making sure that it was the depreciated
It's the
price. 'cause
depreciation amount that
there's
you
nothing you can do with it afterwards.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so for ourselves, basically we would have that or be able to give it, look after those phones behind and the corporate side as well. But it's the same value that we would try to get back.
Okay. Following up on that then, just seeing Ms. Madden on the Appendix A again, we have the $400 for the app purchases. If we get our own phone, we have that $25 allowed for voice and data. How is that paid out? Is that, are we submitting receipts for that? How is that paid out?
Yes, thanks for the question. We have actually something for that here. Just give me 1 second, please, and thank you. And it is on there, technology allowance. C is on page number 2, the reimbursement model. So council members who choose to purchase their own technology will submit receipts to be reimbursed up to the remaining balance of their allowance. So you will bring your receipt to be reimbursed through the city clerks, and for any item that it is within your technology allowance.
Okay, so that includes then, because apps are software.
That is
And
correct.
the voice and data, we would submit those receipts or those bills.
For the voice and data are different. So
Okay.
that one, you will just receive an allowance. If you select a BYOD every month or every biweekly, I don't know how council payments work, biweekly or monthly, a total of $25 a month.
Okay,
And you don't need to bring a receipt for your voice and data.
okay. So then, just Mr. Matthews, that would be a non-taxable benefit? That would show up on our payout? Or like our monthly?
it would
or,
be-
yeah, monthly.
So you would go on your
biweekly payment.
payroll
Yeah.
components that you get from the city, same as you get your council pay. That would be where the route would be added on to. That would come back to council members.
Okay.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a check. It would probably most likely get added on to your amount. For the voice, that's usually how we do those plans for their voice side.
Okay,
As for the payment of one-time amounts and so forth out of that $4,000, that could come through our current accounts payable and out too, but that may also just go through our payroll side. I think we'll look at the logistics behind the scenes of how we handle those.
okay.
But to your point, you provide receipts on that, including for apps,
App
if that was the
purchases, yeah.
case, for apps purchases. As it notes in here, there's an estimated $400 for apps, but it's part of your overall $4,000.
Okay, and the $25 then would be non-taxable?
Yes, that's right. So it would come into the non-taxable portion of that.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then, Ms. Madden, one final question. Talking about when we set up devices, if we were to set up our own personal device, will the city be providing guidance on ensuring that we are setting up our devices as securely as possible?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Middleton Hope, please go ahead.
Yeah, one last.
Just one moment. Mr. Matthews, you have
Quick clarification. I was getting the nods from maybe some that used to past work in payroll that said, no, it's taxable. So
The
it will-
$25 is taxable.
would be taxable. So it'd be a taxable benefit if you get that way.
Well, and it should be because it's a benefit.
It's part of a benefit.
Well, and that's what I'm asking, but it is also part of doing our jobs, so. Yeah, are we going to get, there's a question. What kind of T4A am I getting at the end of the year to write off all of my
This
expenses?
is a lot of work
I'm
for
sorry.
technology.
Well, I'm sorry, but it is a perfectly valid question, because when it comes to income tax time, and when you have a home office and you are getting a taxable benefit for your work, are we issued T4As?
So it wouldn't be a T4A. It would, from that point of view, part of your overall T4, but from the income side. But what you would be requesting is a T2200, which allows you to say that a portion of that was for business purposes, and then you'd have to claim that on your tax return of those expenses.
All right, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Matthews. Go ahead, Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. In regards to, and Mr. Matthews, internet use, we are compensated, if I'm not mistaken, monthly for a portion of our internet use at home. Perhaps this should be also included in the budget.
Yeah, so that change in one of the policies, I think in the past council, or maybe a little bit earlier, where it's actually included in the overall compensation already. So it was taken out one time. We did have amounts that were in there for home use of internet, and that's just part of the overall compensation. So you already get that inside of your taxable income.
Good, thank you. That's clearer.
So let's just kind of wrap this all up because I see the questions are done. The simplest thing is for council to use city technology, better for security, easier to do, less concerns about security. The purpose of this technology is to get council the tech they need to do their job, not to get council tech, but the council the tech they need to do their job. And since every member of council does their job slightly differently, this is why we have built in some options here. And of course, there will be tech support and also city clerk support with this. So having answered all the questions, are we fine to move on to the motion? Okay. I do have a motion from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council approve the amended policy CC11, Technology for Council Members, as provided in Attachment 1 with the following amendment. 1, in Appendix A, under the Technology Allowance Calculation, delete the word camera with an ARA and replace with the word camera with an ERA. Sorry. As everybody was asking questions, I had time to start doing some spelling. And further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Madden, for pulling those together to make us the hybrid that we asked for. Very much appreciated. I believe this gives members of council what they were looking for, some good discussion around clarification. And with that, I will ask for my colleagues' support.
Okay, thank you. And remember, if this passes us and council, you don't have to worry about it again for 4 years. So there is, well, 3. All right, question has been called. All in favor? And that passes unanimously and will be sent on to council. Thank you very much for all your work on this. We now move to the flag protocol policy with Mr. Sarsfield. So we have added 3 more flags. We have also looked into some of the ways that our process is done. If people want to actually ask for it, that process has been streamlined, and all of that is reflected in the proposed flag protocol policy amendments. As well, and what I wasn't expecting was the professional sports teams. Did not even think about that was missing from the last one, and so things like that have been placed in as well. All of that is in there. We do have City Clerk's Department here to answer any questions. We will, of course, open it up first to the members of the public. Does anyone have any questions about flag protocol? Not seeing any questions. We will move to questions from committee. Go ahead, Councillor Middleton-Home.
Thank you. And Mr. Sarsfield knew that I would be asking some questions as I asked administration to review the flag policy some time ago. When I was deputy mayor, we had some confusing times in terms of when flags were raised and when flags were lowered. I note, Mr. Sarsfield, just a couple of points to begin with. Events like Flag Day, National Filipino Day, and so forth, we don't seem to have any representation from the city when these activities actually take place. So as an example, Flag Day, which commemorates the striking of the maple leaf as the flag of Canada, 1965, we allow members of the RCMP, members of the Royal Canadian Legion to come into City Hall, form up, and then go outside and actually raise and lower flags. There doesn't appear to be any member of council or any member of the administration that is a part of that activity. That would go the same for National Filipino Day, and I presume some of the other days as well. So how do we manage that, and are we managing it as well as perhaps we could be?
Thanks for the question. I am excited about flags. So,
I know you are.
So, and I sense you are as well.
Yeah.
So that is one part of what we're doing with the flag. So first of all, what we did is we amended the flag policy to add more information to reflect our current situation in terms of number of flags and our processes and sort of thing. We also looked at what the police are doing and fire EMS to see what their policies were, because we didn't want to necessarily infringe or on them. So we confirmed that what they are doing is in line with what we are doing. One part of this puzzle is we have a separate process right now for dealing with flag raising ceremonies. And that goes through a different department. That goes through Recreation and Culture. And in the past, there has been some miscommunication, shall we say, or whatever it may be, where someone puts in a request for a flag raising, someone puts in a request for a ceremony, someone also puts in a request to put in lighting of City Hall or Yates and all those things, and they're all managed by different departments, so they're not necessarily consolidated. So part of this process is to put that all into one, so it's like a one-stop shopping, so that when someone applies, such as Day of Independence for India or any of the others, we can make sure that all aspects are covered. Sometimes, to pick on some of the associations, they don't actually ask for a ceremony, they don't ask for a member of council there, All they do is they say, we want to do a flag raising, so we just acquiesce with that, and that's what we do. But in the hopes of putting this so it's a more coordinated response, so that you're more aware of what is going on and which events, and so if you wish to attend, you're welcome to do so. That's part of this process, but it's not part of the flag policy. So that was a really long answer, I apologize.
Yeah, so we're still working on it.
No, we're not, actually. Part of this process is once you've adopted the flag protocol process, is we are also will be taking ownership of those other parts as well. We're going to be putting information on the website, which will reflect information on protocol and the processes. Some of it is there, but it's not in one spot.
Good, thank you. Line of duty deaths. I still do not see in the protocols, I do not see adequate line of duty death recognition. I believe in reading through it that it still requires the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the acting mayor to collude to make a decision on when and if the flag is to be lowered. That's contrary to certainly what the fire department and or the police service would be doing, because they follow both provincial as well as federal direction, the protocol office and the Prime Minister's office and the Premier's office on protocol offices. So my concern is that much like when I was deputy mayor, we had a number of line of duty deaths, or loads as they're called, and we had to go running around to get the acting mayor and the deputy mayor and the mayor to agree to request of the city clerk's office to lower the flags. So how will the changes to this policy affect those events?
Just before you answer that, Mr. Sarsfield, I just want to clarify that I don't believe our Agenda Review Committee ever colludes on anything. They follow protocol, they do not collude.
Well, are you spanking me in public?
Yes, I don't think that was the
Well-
word you wanted to choose to suggest that any of these members of council who sit on that are in collusion.
Oh, but collusion is not necessarily a bad thing.
It is to the public, generally.
Well,
Mr.
I'm going to go
Sarsfield,
with what I said.
Mr. Sarsfield, go ahead and answer the question.
So that was one of the revisions we looked at, was the line of death duty. We looked at approximately 15 different policies, primarily in Alberta and also some of the neighboring provinces, just to see what they did. The clause I would direct you to is on the last page, number 7. It said, this policy is not meant to impede the standards of the practice of the Lethbridge Fire Emergency Services Department or the Lethbridge Police Service. So if they wish to lower their flag to recognize someone who passed in the line of duty, they're welcome to do so. In all the policies we looked at, there was no similar process in any of the municipalities. So some of the fire departments do it, some of the police departments do it, but it's not in the overall policy for any municipality that we looked at. And I looked at about 15 of them.
Yeah, so then it'll default then to the mayor, deputy mayor, and acting mayor again.
If they wish to do that, yes.
Okay. One last comment in regards to policy statement A, general point 4. The Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade is now known as Global Affairs Canada.
Yeah, so we'll change that, but I based it on what the name was when we wrote the policy, so.
Okay, good, thank you.
Right, and we're also going to request that you replace king with sovereign, just so that you don't have to change this by policy change if, there's a...
I think it is all sovereign.
Okay, just to make sure it is in there appropriate. All right, so just to clarify, we have the courtesy flag out there. It is there for the public. They have to request to have their flag up, but they can absolutely have a flag raising with city council and the city not in any way being involved if they want. We offer that for the public for commemorative events, but it is not a requirement that we be part of it.
So that probably about 75% of the requests we get for flag ceremonies do not involve or request council members to be
Right,
present.
and that's absolutely theirs. It's also their responsibility to reach out to ask for the flag, et cetera, so the public has to do that on their own. We're not running around finding groups to put the flag up. They have to take on the responsibility, just as with the lighting of City Hall, to fill out their forms and follow up with us. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we are giving them opportunity, but we are not the ones controlling what flag requests are made, except for the ones that fall under our jurisdiction, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Any other questions around this? So I will read what motion we have. This is yours, Councillor Middleton Hope. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council approve policy CC50 flag protocol as provided in attachment 1 with the following amendment. 1, at procedure section A, displaying the flag, item 1.1, striking the reference to the kings and replacing it with the sovereigns. And further be it resolved, the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know that there's much more to be said. Thank you for the hard work, Mr. Sarsfield, on putting this together. Your passion absent. Oh, and of course, the city clerk, yes. And so I'll call the question, Madam Chair.
All right. Again, thank you, everybody. This does take in the 4 new flags. It covers the new policy. Question's been called. All in favor? All right, we will forward that on to council on the 16th. We move now to policy 1, which is the policy development, implementation, and evaluation, the overarching policy that then sets up all our other policies. Now, it's kind of interesting that this is one of the last policies we're doing for the term, is the one that starts it all. And this is Ms. Bronwyn Jesse, General Manager, Risk and Controls. So what this one is it actually is looking at how we do our policy program, what we have learned. I am just going to give a heads up that I am going to be suggesting some amendments, but I will do that during the questions. And we will start if there are any questions from the public on this or any concerns or comments on it. Okay, seeing none and seeing no one in the queue, here's one of the things I would like to look at. The process we have right now around policies is quite passive from a council perspective. We send this out every 4 years and we review it, which is great, but we usually see new policies coming in from administration, which makes sense because they're in the field, they're doing the work. But we have never built into this policy that we should be doing a gap analysis, that council should be actually looking at, as part of our strategic planning, as part of our work going, oh, we should sit down and discuss at governance. Maybe there's ones that are missing, not just expecting administration, who does this very well, to bring us ones that are missing, but to look at ones that we want. And the first one I am going to suggest that we are missing, and this comes out of the recommendations out of Medicine Hat and other places, is looking at whether in the gap is a service level policy that should be there. It is one of the recommendations made during the Medicine Hat discussion, and we don't have one. We have danced around service level policies or discussions in council, but we've never actually set out a reminder to the community and to ourselves that it is, of course, council that sets up service level and has the responsibilities for then budgeting for service levels, which then goes down to administration. So I have 2 things that I would like to discuss, and we can discuss it amongst ourselves with admin as well, is should we put into this policy that not only are all policies reviewed in every 4-year term, but that there is also a discussion, and we can figure out, we can either figure that out as a recommendation or leave it up to the next governance about how they do a gap analysis, but I think it should be done once a term. And then I would also like to suggest, and again, have it referred to the future governance committee, that they look into, in depth, because we don't have time today, whether or not a service level policy should be recommended as something that they should have. So those are the 2 things I want to start as a conversation. If there is any questions from admin about what I mean on any of those, or any questions from my colleagues, but that is where I would like to start. And the other question that I have, and it's not laid out in here, but this would be a question for you, Mr. Brierley. If you find that there is a department or a committee or an individual who doesn't follow the policies, what actually happens? So if we set a policy and you find that it is not being followed, what is the outcome there?
I'll answer your question with...
In generic terms, I don't need specifics.
It depends. So on the severity of the non-compliance, right, whether it's verbal discussion, written warning, or so forth, I can't think of an occurrence at this point in time where it's ever got to a serious level where we needed to go beyond anything written, not even to a serious formal level. So that's about it. But I think, that's something we can certainly consider as we go forward and have more policies and so forth. So.
The reason I ask it is, and I would say it's absolutely not true at the city, but I think we've all sat on boards that have incredible policy manuals that nobody knows about and nobody follows. And so, right, if we say there's such an emphasis on policies, I just want to make sure that, of course, we know it goes down, but we also need the public to know that we spend a lot of time on policies here because it is followed at the administrative level. It does determine your administrative policies, et cetera. And that's why the governance policies kind of set the tone for all the administrative policies as well.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Matthews mentioned to me that in a number of the policies going forward now, we do have a section that speaks to consequences of noncompliance. So.
Okay, perfect. Because, if they don't know that there is actually something's going to follow, it's hard to hold them to something. All right. So I have thrown out two things. Do we want to request that before this goes to council, that just some terminology around a gap analysis every 4 years be added? And do we want to make the recommendation that one of the first things looked at in that gap analysis is a service level policy? Okay, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
I would agree with that. You and I have spoken about this a couple of times. Certainly, we do need to define service levels that can help administration, council, and the public understand what we mean when we are talking about service levels. And reviewing every 4 years, looking for gaps and looking to see what needs to be updated is just good practice to have. We do that at the police commission level. So why wouldn't we do that at the council table as well?
Okay. So then let's ask about logistics. We're not asking for a service level policy at this point. We're not asking for the gap analysis to be done. We're asking for it to be inputted into this policy, that it will be done as part of the 4-year cycle, and that the first recommended gap be looked at a service level policy. Mr. Matthews, I'm going to assume there's no difficulty getting that ready for the 16th? Just those two changes to this?
Thank you, Councillor Crowson. What I would suggest maybe is that maybe it's just in the resolution and that it goes in the status of directorate. So the status of director resolutions has it for going forward. The policy itself, I'm not sure if it quite fits in there. I mean, the gap one probably will on it. So we could probably just have that. But I think if you put in the status of director resolutions for the 16th, then we know that in the future governance, we come back with that kind of information.
Okay. I just don't want it to be lost because, of course, this is the last governance meeting before we hand things over to a new council. Mr. Westerson, is that as clear as mud how we're going to redraft that recommended motion?
I'm just working on it right now. What I'm hearing is we're going to have a new clause. Or city council is going to, just formulating it right now.
Do you need another 5-minute recess to just have this written down?
I'll say 10, but hopefully not take 11, maybe 9.
All right. We will go into a 10-minute recess to give Mr. Westerson and team the chance to draft them, to add to the motion. All right. We're in recess. I said we were going to be done. have something here to review, so if we could all grab seats again. It's giving us back our 2 minutes. All right. So this is what we have, and then it will be going up as well. This will be your recommends that City Council adopt policy CC01, policy development, implementation, and evaluation, as provided in attachment 1 with the following amendment. 1, to include a gap analysis of all City Council policies and procedures to be performed by the Governance Standing Policy Committee once a term of council. Further, be resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council refer a discussion on a service level policy to the Governance Standing Policy Committee by end of Q1 2026. Further, be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business. Now, we may have put that service level early, but this is not requesting anything of admin. This is requesting that one of the things the Governance Policy Committee talk about is whether or not we think one is needed, and if it is, then it would be referred to admin at that point. So admin, don't look at that Q1 2026 and think something's being thrown at you. That is not the intention. The only thing we would be asking admin to do if this passes is just to slot in a gap analysis along with review every 4 years into the policy before it comes forward on September 16th. I think I have summarized this. Are there any questions? I see quickest in the queue was Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, to make it, are we sending this away and then administration will bring back the amended policy directly to council? Or are we amending the policy right now to send to council? Because if it's the second one, where are we putting that to include a gap analysis? Is it under responsibilities, city council must, and then we add a 5?
We're going to trust admin to put it in before the 16th.
Okay,
because,
perfect.
like I said, because we're on a compressed timeline, rather than having us do it, it's just easier to say you have 6 days, please. Yeah, no, we're not telling them where to put it. We're asking them to put it in the appropriate place. All right. Next question is from Councillor Middleton Hope.
That's okay, Mike can, we'll move on.
Okay. So then we go back to Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. This motion is yours with the amendments on there and everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the amendments as well. Gap analysis to be performed by Governance Standing Policy Committee once a term of council. That is good work for the Governance Standing Policy Committee to be looking at that governance level. So certainly looking at that, other groups do this, and that is something that we should be looking at as the governing body. Also taking a look at service level policy. That is something, again, that's been talked about. Service levels are somewhat confusing to members of the public, and I think even to members of council when we're talking during budget time, what does service level mean? So identifying that as something that should be done and something that should be in there does warrant some discussion. So our residents understand the purpose of CC01, which is our policy development, implementation, and evaluation policy, is to declare the roles and responsibilities of City Council, City Administration, and special purpose bodies with respect to policy development, implementation of policies, and evaluation of policy effectiveness, and to establish a consistent approach through an established format and clearly articulated definitions and procedures. So it is the first policy that we look at that guides us as we're forming every policy behind that. With these changes, I think we've got some good format here. I think we've got some good things to move forward with, and some good guidance for future council. And with that, I will call for my colleagues' support.
Questions called. All in favor? And that passes unanimously as well. And now we go to crosswalks. Decorative crosswalks. This comes forward from Mr. Jewell, General Manager, Transportation Policy. We did have a conversation around this. We requested that we also look at all other commemorative things. That is still forthcoming. This is focused on decorative crosswalks. It's around who pays for it, responsibilities around it, etc. If this moves forward, it would be up to the group requesting it that pays for everything entirely. And it outlines all the ways that this would be requested, etc. I know the reason we asked for it to be broader than just decorative crosswalks is they don't really last very long. I mean, we had the one on Scenic that, basically nobody can read now. So while we appreciate that people want to commemorate things, we also want to at some point look at perhaps longer-lasting ways to commemorate things, and maybe ones that people don't actually burn out on. But we are right now just focused on decorative crosswalks. So we will start, again, asking any members of the public if anybody wishes to speak on this. Mr. Cool, again, says nothing, so I'm going to assume the public doesn't have anything to say, and we'll move to Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate that explanation of why this is sort of a standalone, but I think it's important. I also appreciate that it sort of takes it out of the political domain and just says, this is open to anyone. I've been trying to tell people that for years, that if they really want a crosswalk, bring a check and we'll get you a crosswalk. Anyways, Mr. Jewell, you're here, so I'll direct the question to you since it's in yours. The installation period for 1 to 5 years, why not just up to 5 years? Like if Canadian Mental Health wants a 6-month crosswalk, I guess that was my only question, is why does it have to be in place for a year if it's a special event at that for a month even?
I believe, thanks for the question, by the way, because there's 2 different types of installation methods.
Yep.
A paint would last about a year, much cheaper to install with paint. Most groups might just want a 1 to 2 year paint or repaint, so it'll be cheaper for them since they're paying for it. The Pride crosswalk's a good example that was done with permanent line markings, much more expensive. It'll last 5 years. And the application would include an eventual removal when they do fade. So if it's a 1 to 2 year time frame, then we would remove it, and that cost is also paid for by the applicant.
Thanks, I agree with that. I'm just wondering why not just up to 5 years? If somebody wanted one for 6 months, or even just a month, they're having the Word on the Street Festival, they wanted to put in a big blurb in the crosswalk for a month. I'm just wondering why you say it has to be there for a year if they don't want it for a year or 2 years.
I believe we wouldn't be putting it in for a month. This is over the construction season.
Okay.
And then we would remove it after a 1 year time frame. So it's usually a 1 year would be the minimal time frame.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Middleton Hope, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is through the city manager to Mr. Jewell. It's kind of a statement and a question as well in terms of some of the strategies that we might be looking at. So as part of our analysis, if we examine crosswalk painting from the perspective of safety, it would appear that some of the crosswalks obliterate the crosswalk, which is the function of the crosswalk, to the extent that it can confuse, and has confused some pedestrians in terms of where to cross. So I see that as a potential.
Anything in between, color or not, is just the crosswalks already existing. So it shouldn't be confusing, and I believe there's even a distance between those white lines. I can't remember what it is, but the 2 white lines and a crosswalk sign on either side, that defines the crosswalk. So a decorative crosswalk is just some painting in between.
All right. So our research has concluded that there are no safety issues with painted crosswalks. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. My second comment then is painted crosswalks obviously require maintenance, far more so than not painted crosswalks.
Typically, we only paint our crosswalks once per year with lateral line painters. That's the white line.
Yep.
So the applicant would be paying for one installation of paint or permanent line markings at 1 to 5 year time frame. If they wanted to do it for 2 or 3 years, we would actually require them to repaint it at their cost a second time, third time.
Right.
So it's fresh. Yeah, that's not part of the policy right now, but we do have a banner policy where you can put up banners on streetlights, for example, because we've got those in many locations to promote special events, but we just haven't formalized that as a policy yet. But that is an option for someone to come in and say, well, you could do banners on the street, you could do flags on private property. There's a whole host of other promotional activities, but right now we only dealt with what was in the public roadway on decorative crosswalks.
Okay, and so if someone came in and was requesting options or was move toward one particular option, would we advise them that there are other options available?
I believe we have, in the sense that the banners, for example, we have a number of groups that have actively pushed banners, and we'll tell them, you might want to consider banner policy, a banner versus a decorative crosswalk.
Okay. And last comment is in regards to a crosswalk that was painted, I believe it is 3rd Avenue. It's over by the McDonald's. So 3rd, without naming the organization. It was painted on April the 23rd, 2024. I believe it was to be there for a year. However, on my most recent check, it was still there. So how do we ensure that these will be removed in a timely fashion?
That would be our responsibility. I could refer to Mr. Ali's behind me, and if it was put in for a year, whether they prepaid for it or not, or we would remove it after whatever we committed to. And I don't know if that.
Maybe at that point we will, because right now this is no longer a council policy.
Yep, and if council so wishes to do that, that's no problem, but it has to go through council to get
To be
to that
repealed,
point.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm not saying we have to do that right now, but I don't see this any longer as a council policy if this is our recommendation, because there is, again, nothing in responsibilities over this. And so I want to raise that as an option. We can keep it, being well aware that the only thing we would be saying to the public is, we have a policy, but the policy is you go talk to admin. Or we could say, because of the changes being recommended, let's repeal CC 80 or not have CC 80, and just let the public know it's now an administrative policy. So is there any feelings about that? I mean, again, if we don't want to make that decision, we can send it as it is and just hope that, it gets caught in the next round of governance. Councillor Middleton Hope?
So I appreciate your comments. I'm wondering, in terms of the application of Councillor Crowson's proposed revocation or amendment of this policy, Mr. Brierley, how would that play out if it became an administrative policy?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand the question. I'm looking at Mr. Jewell over there. If it's an administrative policy, if anyone, once they approach us, we'll just forward them to Darwin and his team, and they'll walk them through, here's the process, costs, timing. I know things we're painting the sidewalks, they have to coordinate lane closures and safety and cleaning before and so forth. So, yeah, we would just manage it as per the policy.
So would it be consistent with our current practices in other areas?
Such as?
I don't have any. Sorry.
All right.
I'm just thinking there must be something else that would fall in line with that.
Yeah, we have a number of things that come directly to admin every day, and if council is supportive of this and in agreement with the approach, we would just manage it as per the written document.
Is the City Hall lighting entirely at the administrative level? I don't remember a policy around that.
It sits, I'm looking at Mr. Gauthier, it sits with the mayor's office now, it's moved a few times.
At admin?
It used to be with comms, was with my
But
office.
council's
It's,
not involved with it in any way.
No, the council sometimes asks, and we have some say, we'll get multiple competing events, and so the lighting policy, to open another can of worms, the lighting policy and the banner policy is something we've talked about bringing forward. There's some complexities to that. We don't have a date or timeline for that, and need to make sure that we truly do need it. Right now, it seems to be working along fairly well, so before we even go there.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to throw this out into this, but yeah, the other policies are like that. So we have three options. We can leave it as is with the recommendation that has been written. We can ask for it to be repealed, or we could take this, ask for it to be put on the agenda instead of the consent agenda on the 16th, and have this conversation with all of our colleagues about whether this is now just administrative or if they want to still keep it as a council policy, because it's a choice. But like I said, whenever you see a policy that does not actually have a responsibility for council, it's no longer a council policy. I mean, at its most basic.
I think I'd be inclined for option 3.
Option 3, take it to council and have a conversation on the agenda on the 16th.
But put a defined timeline on it, because we could end up having a fairly lengthy conversation, I think, about this. So yeah, I'd be in favor of option 3.
Okay, Councillors Carlson and Schmidt-Rempel, what do you think? Like I said, I thought about this yesterday going, if I read this again, it's not a council policy anymore. So are you wanting option 3? Leave it to all 9 to discuss it because there are public realm, like, everybody might have a different thing. Okay, so Mr. Westerson, we are going to request that this go at the, to the open agenda, not the closed agenda, on the 16th, not consent agenda, but the agenda, with both options there for discussion with our colleagues.
So instead of a recommendation that's currently proposed with regards to
We'll give them 2
adopting,
options.
we're just going to forward this to the September 16, 2025 council meeting as an item of urgent business.
With the 2 options. You can put the, rescind this, repeal this, and make it completely administrative, or you can keep it as this with the understanding that there really is no decision-making at council anyways, but it still keeps it as council has the involvement of the policy.
I believe Sino Evo has that question.
Councillor Carlson, please go ahead.
Thanks, John. I guess how speedily or easily is it accomplished to say it's no longer council policy, it's an amendment policy, so repeal CC 80 and it's now yours? Is that?
I mean, the policy is there. It really is just a matter of changing it because they have the policy.
Because it really, as I was trying to read through, I just assumed it was no longer a council policy because we don't have any touch points.
Yeah.
We can refer.
And that might be, that's why I'm suggesting we send it this way, because some of our colleagues may say,
They
"But
may
we
want
want touch points.
Gotcha.
We want to take back some control."
Okay.
And so that's the thing I'm not sure about, is there might be people saying, but it matters to keep it at council.
Well, we got 5 of us here.
The reason is, and I bring this up because we have a meeting on the 16th and then there is no council basically till November. And so if we do get hit very quickly by why is there not a Remembrance Day crosswalk, there is no mechanism between now and the other one. So that's the other thing I just want to say it publicly. Under this policy, somebody has to come forward and say, I want to pay for it. And if you do want a Remembrance Day crosswalk, you need to let us know by the 16th of September because it would have to be brought as urgent business on, which is the other thing about putting this on the open agenda, because otherwise there is no time with our schedule. And I don't want people to be mad because nobody told them there would be no time with our schedule. Because I guarantee it will hit social media that, especially since Okotoks did an incredibly beautiful one, and Councillor Parker did bring this forward last year that we should be looking into, just the timing this year is not good for that. So that's the other reason for putting it on the open agenda or on the public agenda. Because that basically, this is, I mean, I don't know how many millions of people are watching this, but this essentially gives anyone on council who wants to go out and see if there's a group that wants to pay for it, or any member of the public who want to come forward, you have to the 16th by the time, and earlier is better, if that is something, because I don't think it's not going to become a concern again for the public. I know it's after the time we can normally do it, but if the weather is good, could it still be done, Mr. Jewell? In October, if, again, I don't know if anybody's going to come forward. They would have to come forward and want to pay for it. I just want to give people options.
I was going to also chirp in and talk about the request that the Canadian Legion Veterans Association, they wanted council to pay for that. That would be a decision of council. I think it was a $10,000 request.
Yeah, but under our policy, it's not. So again, which is why it would have to go to council.
So back to your original question, though, is if they put in an application, which they haven't yet, a design, which they haven't yet, they've picked a location, then we would review it. I don't think it would be possible to do one in October, November, like, we've already broken down the equipment. We would be we're happy to do it first thing in the spring once it's, when the weather is there.
Then we'd have to be very clear with the public that it's not that we don't want to or may not want to. It's the fact that it is not possible to do because of our timeline and your timeline. Okay. Does that sort of clarify for everybody? Because I don't want to, because I know we're going to get it from the public. I just don't want to, and the weather's timeline. And it is just a strange year for all of this because with the election and everything. So, as clear as mud, we will take the options to our colleagues, try to explain everything that is going on to them. They can decide which way, or the 9 of us will decide which way it's going to go. Work? All right. Yes. Did we actually vote on that? No. I do need Mr. Westerson back. Then I will read it, and we will go, because we have the options there. And then we can go home, or to the SAG event, or whatever event you're all going to. Okay. I'll tell you about it after. Councillor Carlson, this is your motion. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee forward this recommendation to the September 16th, 2025 City Council meeting as an item of urgent business to consider either referring this to administration to form an administrative policy or to approve as a City Council policy. And it would be implied in there that if it's going to become an administrative policy, it would mean repealing our policy. Or do we have a policy? This is a new policy. That's why you wrote it that way. Thank you, Mr. Westerson, for reminding me. Councillor Carlson, that is your motion.
Thank you. And so just to be clear, the wording is enough to say that this will not be in the consent agenda. It'll be a standalone item.
This is going to the public agenda.
Perfect. And unless there's any further comment or debate, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that passes unanimously with 4.5 votes again.
I do it. It's out of my hands already once. I do it at home when I'm watching the thing.
Thank you again to all of administration and staff who supported this meeting and brought all these policies and everything done. Again, whatever happens, you guys don't have to review policies again until like 2 months from now when you start again for next term. All right, everybody, have a great Wednesday. I have to remind myself it's Wednesday. This is not Thursday. See you all tomorrow at Economic and Finance. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.